We're with Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison from Texas. She's the only female senator since 1993 from Texas. And she's here as a guest of the Houston World Affairs Council to talk about her latest book, The American Heroines, The Spirited Women Who Shaped Our Country. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's wonderful to be with you. Thank you.
I know that you wrote, this is your second book. The first book you wrote, it was about the 9 women senators. Now there's more. But tell me how this book came about.
Well, first, I have always wanted to write a book. And the editor who worked with us on 9 and Counting, the book about the women senators, said, "Would you like to write another book?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I've got the book that I want to write." And I wanted to chronicle the women who have broken barriers in so many different fields in our country. And I wanted to acknowledge that, A, this is the best place in the world to be a woman, and B, that because women have been a part of the evolution of our country, it has made our country the strongest one on earth.
Now, you were the first also female reporter here in Houston with KPRC, Channel 2. Did this book bring the reporter out of you again?
Oh, absolutely. The interviews were so much fun for me because I was able to talk to people about what are their traits for success, what are their most important experiences, to give our young women and young men a kind of a roadmap for what it will take to be successful in sports or in aviation or in education. And I think the interviews are just as interesting as the biographies. And I saw a difference really in the early women breaking barriers. Usually they didn't see their successes. They had no encouragement. They were fighting to get what they were interested in. It was very lonely, and they never really saw things come to fruition. But what they didn't realize is they were laying the groundwork so that the next generation really could achieve the dreams. And in the interviews you see that the women who are still breaking barriers in those same fields are seeing their successes.
Prejudice, underestimation, discrimination, emotional setbacks, degrading social norms, discouragement, and other such negative forces hindered the American female from achieving and proving her capability for enhancing society. Nevertheless, many of our nation's women perseveringly surpassed these limitations, successfully met their ambitions, and emerged as the American heroines. Senator Hutchison thoughtfully crafted this piece by incorporating concise yet detailed biographies of a variety of women's lives, one-on-one interviews with accomplished women of today, and her own input regarding various aspects of feminine progress. Her work does not fail to provide enough evidence and insight in order to prove her thesis. All of the women Hutchison speaks about in American Heroines via their life stories overcame obstacles which the societies of their time enforced upon them. These obstacles included a lack of education, obligations towards domestic roles, i.e. maternal duties, and gender-related bias towards their choice of careers or occupational approaches. At the same time, a majority of these women had to cope with personal and emotional setbacks, such as family illnesses and deaths. Yet, a considerable number of them also received motivation from their family or acquaintances through which they could attain success in their endeavors. Here are some examples of such women whose stories demonstrated such traits. Emma Willard. Willard's family not only faced financial instability, but Willard also struggled immensely in her endeavors to provide high-quality education to girls. Most men during her time believed that an extensive education was useless for girls who would inevitably succumb to marital and maternal roles. Nevertheless, she founded the Troy Female Seminary, which changed American views about how girls could receive a proper education in challenging subjects and how they could educate others in return. Elizabeth Seton. Seton lost her husband and had to take care of her 5 children single-handedly. She also dealt with additional family deaths of relatives extremely close to her, such as her sister-in-law and her own daughter. Yet, over her adulthood, she had developed a great reverence for the Catholic faith. For this reason, she drew enough strength to initiate the first American Sisters of Charity, an assembly of nuns. Mildred Babe Didrikson Zaharias. Babe grew up in a household where her parents struggled to make both ends meet. Despite this, she not only taught herself academically, but also athletically. Hutchison states, Babe was a self-made champion in basketball, track and field, and most notably golf. She was popular, but also fiercely competitive. Babe had to win every game, even marbles. Babe's ardency for playing several sports reflected her desperation to achieve, just as many women did during the times when society restricted them from doing so. Even after setting athletic records around the world for sports such as basketball, javelin throwing and hurdling at the Olympics, and golf, she became diagnosed with colon cancer. Despite the malignancy, she continued to compete in golf tournaments and even won a couple of them. She eventually succumbed to the disease, but battled it to the best of her ability by leading as normal a life as possible and by clutching onto her passions for sports. Her achievements opened up doors to several aspiring female athletes to enter the profession. As mentioned earlier, Hutchison included several women in her book with differing stories and challenges, from pioneers to athletes, from women in the 1800s to women in the 21st century, and from Native American women to African American women. Some of these women are extremely well known, such as Clara Barton, who is best known as the initiator of the American Red Cross, as well as Amelia Earhart, the first American female pilot to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. On the other hand, the details about some of the women's lives may be lesser known to those studying general aspects of American history, such as Sarah Winnemucca. Winnemucca was a Native American political activist, author, and educator in the 19th century. Kay Bailey Hutchison put a lot of work while researching the contents of the book. The book includes an extensive bibliography which lists the multiple sources she used to research each individual person. It is represented in the form of suggestions for further reading, along with photography credits. Needless to say, her sincerity towards expressing the indispensability of women's roles in American history reflected in the interviews she took of several eminent personalities, including the following. Sally Ride. As the first woman in space in 1983, Ride inspired other female astronauts. She understandably implied in her interview that perseverance and persistence took her to success, as proving to the world that women too were capable of taking up space missions would have been challenging for her. Rosalind Yalow. Yalow is best known for winning the Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine due to her 1959 discovery of the RIA, or radioimmunoassay method, along with another doctor. This method effectively measures biological substances for laboratory purposes, but initially it had to face expected scientific opposition. Yalow demonstrated strength when defending her work, as she stated in the interview, and also proved that women possess the same innovative and analytical skills as men to work in the scientific field. Cokie Roberts. Roberts is a renowned journalist and news analyst for the NPR, or the National Public Radio. She stated that decisiveness served as her important trait for success. This statement definitely applies to all the accomplished women mentioned and not mentioned in the book, as they all had to make crucial decisions which determined the steps they would take in their occupational paths. Hutchison asked all of her interviewees questions regarding some or all of the following categories: important trait for success, biggest obstacle, best preparation for a rough and tumble, best negotiating strategy, helpful childhood memory, and best advice. Most of the ladies' responses revolved around these key points. Listen to others' opinions and what they have to say regarding a certain matter to understand how you can contribute or compromise towards the situation. Never lose hope in your determination when pursuing a goal, whether or not others encourage you to do so. Understand that you may face setbacks when endeavoring on your career. At the same time, also respect the opportunities you receive in life and do justice to them with sincerity, passion, and pride. Although Hutchison addresses stories of women from varying fields, the focus of her work implies some hints of bias, as most of the women are associated with Texas and/or the Republican Party, Hutchison's hometown and political party. Some well-known examples of these personalities include the following. Selena Quintanilla, a Latino singer from Corpus Christi, helped Tejano music gain much popularity around America. She did so in a very short span of time, as a manager of one of her boutiques killed her at a very young age. Sandra Day O'Connor, born in Texas and inclined towards the Republican Party, served as the U.S. Supreme Court Justice after working in the law field in Southwest U.S. And Condoleezza Rice, who served as the U.S. Secretary of State under President George W. Bush. She made multiple strides in academia and politics and not only overcame bias towards her gender, but also her race. Due to the focus of Hutchison's work, American Heroines will naturally appeal more to females wanting to achieve and accomplish rather than men. Additionally, while the book will most likely catch the attention of Texans and Republicans, people from all over the U.S. and from any political preference will appreciate the philosophy of and draw inspiration from the book. Hutchison stated in her interview that she saw a difference between the early American heroines and the later ones. The former never reaped the benefits of their efforts towards general social and occupational equality in comparison to the latter. This statement reflects how American society as a whole has progressed towards becoming more acceptant and open-minded to innovative and liberal ways of handling life, i.e., through the spring of the women's suffrage movement and the civil rights movement. The stories Hutchison chose to write about expressed how the women overcame their struggles and implied that they never abandoned their moral duties of fostering society. Yet, they did so by determining their own purposes in life, rather than merely listening to what society dictated to them about their limitations and potentials.